Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Shadow and Bone Season 1 finale. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, obviously we're picking up with the last episode left off with the skiff going through the fold and everything. And so obviously, Kirigan ends up showing his true colors, because at first, even Zoya's being like, why isn't Kirigan just letting, Alina just get rid of it once and for all? But it's like, the dude's like, you didn't know? Kirigan wants us to stop in the middle of it. It's like, no, once we get to, before we get to the Western Docks. It's like, why? For an audience. So it is a thing of, he is showcasing to everyone, just not what I thought it was. I was wondering, when it was all said and done, how that was going to operate, because obviously he uses Alina's powers because she can't fully control her powers. She gets some. It's almost like, I allow you to use some of your power, but it's mainly mine to control. So he basically creates a tunnel for them to go through. But it's like, why a tunnel? Why not just bring down the fold? Because she wants to do that. It's like, that's what we were supposed to do. And he's like, why get rid of the fold? It's our greatest weapon. And part of me was wondering, was he planning on absorbing the fold? It came from him, so it was maybe absorbing it. But it's like, it can be used as a weapon, which is interesting because literally on the other side of things, Gelatin's like, yeah, when they come over, we're going to pretend like diplomacy, and then we're going to kill everyone. But the Sun Queen is there. Yeah, we're going to kill her too. But, she could bring down a fold. And he's like, yeah, but if the fold goes down, there goes our independence. And I figured that's why Arkin was sent to kill her, for that purpose. Because it is a thing of, as long as the fold is there, it cuts off West and East Ravka, and it gives the West an opportunity. It gives them the leverage and the power needed, because if the East wants to challenge them, it's like, you will literally have to come through. And also, it seems like the West is also in connections to Fjorda and everything. So they have allies that can help them under these circumstances. So it's a situation of everything kind of, it's all leaning towards their favor in this regard, so the fold needs to stay up. But what really surprised me is when Kirigan was like, stop the boat. Now it's time for everything to really kick off. And instead of absorbing the fold, he expands it. I was like, yo! And he ends up consuming the nearby town. And you had Alina try and use her light to shoot out and stop the expansion by brightening it up. But he yanks her power back. And this whole thing was to prove a point of see what happened here? I want all of you, because I didn't realize last episode that those were all delegates from different countries. It's even more of a spectacle. You see what we just did there? Yeah, I have control of the fold now, and I don't know whether he's actually moving the actual fold or whether it's actually just expansion. I think he's expanding it. But now that he has all this power and stuff, so for him, because I guess with Alina's power plus the power from the stag, he's able to kind of plus all the years and stuff like that are just getting stronger. He's able to control the fold now. Like I said, I'm curious. I'm wondering. Probably misunderstanding, but I'm curious. Actually, because he has control over Alina's powers, but I wonder actually having control over her powers because the stag does kind of. Well, because he did get the stag's power, so, in general, because he got the kill, so, supposedly the power boost is his. So maybe, Alina on top of that, as a sun summoner, she gives him even more of a power boost naturally to his natural darkling abilities. I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably, misunderstanding that whole thing. But regardless, it was basically a show of sign of each and every one of you, yeah, so go back to your countries and know that I can expand the fold wherever the hell I want to. So basically from now on, I can remap the world to be whatever I want to. So each country that wants to challenge us ends all wars. So it's a situation where you can kind of see where he's coming from, where it's it's basically a show of strength by basically being cruel and being I could expand this border and you could all be blacked out into the darkness where the Volker will rip you apart. So it's a situation of he went about it the most terrible way, but it is it's to me, I look at it as it is a complicated thing, because by doing this he is ending wars, but basically he's holding the entire every country hostage, because it's you don't do what I want you to do, I'm gonna expand and wipe you out. So it's but like I said, it's still that, once again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's like what he's trying to do, like he is trying to make amends. But once again, it is that thing of like, you get your power hungry, especially absolute power corrupts absolutely and all that. So it's a thing of like you are trying to do good, but like once again, you are showcasing your power. Because obviously this hits hard for Zoya because it's like she was excited to go here because it's like, oh I got family here, and it's like seeing what he did is like, wait, I have family in there that's potentially dead, and obviously the delegates weren't okay with what was going down, and so they try to fight back, but then like Ivan comes and kills each and every one of them, and all he has to say is, damn, guess I'm gonna have to give that speech again. So down below, obviously we have our trio trying to decide what the hell they're gonna do, because even Jester being like, because it's like, oh yeah, clean, like Castle's like, oh, clean your gun and stuff like that. He's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, what are we going to do about this? So it's like, well, maybe it's like, well, we got to wait for an opportunity, because Kaz, once again, showing you like the foresight he has. He pretty much figured out the scenario of like, okay, she ran away and now she's being chained down. That it's basically like he doesn't fully know what the general has planned, but it's like, right, he's kind of in control of her now. Obviously, Inej ends up finding Mal, and it's like, oh, well, he's not with Kerrigan, so that means he's with us. So, Kaz was like, let's be smart, wait for an opportunity, because, he has too much power for us to go toe-to-toe with him. But Mal's like, I've never been smart. So Inej goes with them, and your boy came in like a wrecking ball, but sadly, Ivan kind of brought him to his knees with this power. Inej is helping Zoya, because she was trying to make a move, but like the other... Grisha there was stopping her, but Inej and him go toe-to-toe, and Zoya ends up helping her in the end, because it's like, right, Kerrigan needs to be stopped. Alina also has to focus her power on making sure the ship stays safe, but like most of the people on the ship were those delegates, and they're dead now, so, but it's about keeping everyone else that is alive safe. So, and you also had your boy Jesper coming in, blam, blam, especially when it came to Ivan. Because Ivan ended up being like the last one being dealt with. I'm kind of doing this a little out of order, but I do apologize. And now I understand what the other episode was talking about. He was like, should have stopped right there. It was like, oh, I guess because he was kind of, I guess maybe he was like, kind of say like, oh, you're gay or whatever. It's like, maybe that's what he was talking about. But, so that's why, like, once again, he's like, still couldn't shoot that pretty face. It's like, it would have been a lot easier if I just shot you in the face, but, you're too handsome, so... We don't know that Ivan's dead, to be fair. He was left in the fold, so his powers as a heart renderer, I don't know how they stand up against a Volcra. I mean, to be fair, they are human, and his powers allow him to hear their heartbeat. So I think because they were once human, they had the heartbeat and everything. So maybe Ivan found his way out of that. Like, all we know is that Jesper kind of shot him off the side. It's like, I didn't kill you, but maybe the Volcra will. Once again, we don't know that. Fedor's not going to be happy about that. So there's all of that. And obviously it comes down to, like, Kerrigan, Inej throws a knife, but it doesn't kill him, because it's like, oh, he's going to take more than that. I've been around forever. And so Alina has a vision with the stag, and the stag comes to her, and she sees the knife. And then, like, when the time comes, she it's like, you needed me? Yes, but I never needed you. And she stabs his hands and pulls, like, the stag piece out of, like, sends it flying into the air. For one, now it's like he doesn't have that boosted power, but for her, it's like, you've got this whole thing wrong. She's like, now I understand. The stag's power was never yours. It's always been mine, because it comes down to, it's not who kills the stag, it's who the stag chooses, and it chose me. And in that moment, she's like she fused with the bones, like, because I think that was kind of supposed to be like, Alina hadn't figured it out that, like, oh, the stag had chosen her, and, you asked me who I am, this is who I am, and she brings the light, and it's like, I thought that was just such a fascinating development, kind of like, like wondering why she kept seeing the stag over and over again. I guess that was like what the vision was about, because the stag was trying to tell her, like, I choose you. I choose you, Sun Summoner. I wonder, has that always, I guess that's how it's always been. It's just maybe Kerrigan had always just misinterpreted as like, oh, like you killed a thing, because that was always like what was written in the books, but that was probably interpretations of how it worked. There was probably no clear like translation of like, maybe it was never clear when the Bonesmith was like, oh, this is how it works, But then, like, Mal and him go toe-to-toe. Now, I won't lie to you. I'm a sucker for that, because I can think of a video game. I won't spoil what video game is it that literally comes down to a literal fist fight in it. I always like that when people are so both exhausted. Oh, we use up all our power. Well, you know what it comes down to? A fist fight. This different circumstances in this case because Mao doesn't have any power. He's not a Grisha, so he doesn't have any powers. But what also is interesting too is like because his hand is injured, Kirigan can't use the full force of his power. So he tries to do the blade to cut Mao, but it's like it doesn't work. But like I said, it's just a toe-to-toe fist fight. Obviously, Kirigan's got the advantage and stuff like that. But Mao being like, no, don't worry. I won't have to kill you. You're past when we see some Volcra going at him. And I'm like, is he really going to die like that? I was like, obviously, I have said, nah, there's no way he's going to die like that. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you should have put a bullet in his head, but regardless. So, luckily, Alina's okay and ends up, obviously, Mao being like, tell me you're okay, please be okay. And it's like, and she's like, Mao, he's like, please don't say, like, you're going to see you in the meadow or something. And then, like, she blasts a Volcra and it's like, well, they make their way through. So that's where things are kind of on that front. Another angle, since we brought up Ivan earlier, got to talk about his better half, Fedor, which we can also see, like, because he is a true believer in everything, it's like, he can have his scary side too, even though you would think, like, Ivan's the hard ass. Fedor can be Fedor could be a hard ass as well. And so obviously Nina and Matthias, it's like, well, what are we going to do? Like, it's like we can kind of basically run away together. Yeah, because it's like, but for, Matthias, it's like Freda and, Ravka are only countries he's ever known. It's like, but for him, it's like, if I run away with you, I will be court-martialed for abandoning my country and everything. And so, like, I will be court-martialed if I ever try to come back home. It's like, it's the only home he's ever known. And Nina's in the same boat. And I was worried, like I said, I was like, oh, like, please one of you don't betray the other. But, like, it's like, but, even Nina, but, like, I can't ask you to throw away, like, the rest of your life for me and stuff like that. But, they do care for each other. Like I said, it's a very Romeo and Juliet thing. But obviously, she's getting, like, prepared for, like, waffles and stuff like that. It's like, oh, let me share it with you. Because he's never had waffles. He's like, where's the meat? Is this meat or something? It's like, no. He's like, is it sweet or savory? She's like, yes. Once again, a little nitpick. I am one of those people, because my mom does this all the time. I ask her, I give her two options, and she says yes. I'm like, oh my God, that's the most infuriating thing. I'm like, yes. I gave you two options and you say yes. It's like the most infuriating thing she does. I'm like, why do you do that? She does it so much. I'm like, oh, Mom, why do you do that? Regardless, it just made me think about it. It's like a little pet peeve I have. It's like, I'm giving you options. Don't say yes. Like, I don't know whether the yes, because yes doesn't always mean, like, oh, the last thing you mentioned. Sometimes it means the first thing. It's like, oh, God. Like I said, it's just a little pet peeve of mine. But nevertheless, it's like, yeah, they're having fun and everything, and then the moment, like, his heart starts pounding, and you're like, oh, boy, Ivan showed up. And he's not alone. Obviously, there's others with him, and it's like, oh, are there others nearby? Is that why you didn't kill him? And it's like, no, he's changed. But Ivan's like, no, not Ivan, Fedor. It's like, no, he doesn't change. They never change. She's like, but he has. Like, we don't have to kill him. It's like, he's with me, and he's just like, wow, all right, we'll bring him back, and I won't tell the general you're a traitor. And it's like, basically, there's some people after, like, who are trying to, like, there's bounty on slave traders, and she's like, all right, he's a slave trader just so she can save Matthias's life. And it's like, and the dudes roll up, and they got their guns ready, and then, like, Fedor and the others kind of get ready, too, and it's like, the dude's like, you're already in a war with, Matthias's country, so I was like, do you want beef with our countries, too? So it's kind of like all right, so Nina gets away by, like, creating a circumstance, and then he's like, oh, like, happy sailing, and, I was like, oh, Fedor is definitely going to hold this against you. He might also be in a bad mood because, Ivan might be dead. Once again, you don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front. That's also another thing, too, like, Ivan's whole situation is like, oh, all that he did for you. I guess it's because, once again, so many Grisha will look at what he did as what I'm doing for, even, like, even he tried to justify it. It's like, all I've done is for our people. It's like, yes, to a certain extent, because for him, it's like, by doing this, it's like, it's kind of like how the Grisha are treated in Ravka in the sense of like, oh, they kind of act like assholes to people. It's kind of like that, where it's like, oh, we're better than you, we're kind of treated better than you. It was almost like a circumstance where he was creating that, because it's like, rather than kind of being judged and persecuted, now they can run free without it, because it's like, oh, people step out of line to their, because it's also, that's his people and everything. Like, for him, he will make the justification, like, I've always been about, looking out for the Grisha. And it's like, once again, maybe you can make that argument, and even saying that Alina's kind of turning against their people, but it's like, no, you turned against your people the moment it stopped kind of just being about them. It became about power and everything for him too, so it's like he had to be the one in control of everything, including Alina, because it's like, oh, you won't do what I want you to do, then submit to me. So like I said, it's just a give and take type of situation with like, you can understand, like, there is a level you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, like, you are doing this for the Grisha. It's just, once again, just kind of going about it the most asshole-ish way you can. But the argument could be because of the way the world is, because once again, he was hunted for, hey, I fought and won battles, I won wars for you, and because I'm so powerful, you got scared and you want to hunt me and my people down. And, so it's a thing where he was kind of pushed into a corner, so he was kind of forced to become the bad guy. So it's, I don't think it's, there are shades of black and white, but there are shades of gray to it as well. I don't think it's as simple. There is a complexity to it. At least that's how I feel about it. Maybe other people are like, nah, it's super easy, it's super black and white with it, he's a villain, leave it at that. But I think there is a little complexity to like his goals and stuff like that. It's kind of like a Thanos thing of like, I don't agree with the way you're going about things, I can understand why you think you're going about it the right way, but nevertheless. So another angle to this, like, going back to our group of people, it's like, well, they're sitting around a fire, they're the only ones that survived on the boat, so it's like, okay, so what are we going to do? And for Kaz, it's like, well, you're still worked a lot. And she's like, all right, so, because it's like, are you going to try and kidnap me again? And even Jesper being like, it's like, nah, for one, I'm so tired. Two, like, it's not really right to, like, try to kidnap the person who saved your life and everything. But Kaz is still kind of intent on it, so, Alina gives him like a particular necklace, and it's like, no, this is a deal of like, me giving you this is giving me your silence, because she's cool with Inej, because Inej is like, I've never made a saint before, and Alina's like, I've never been a saint before, but Inej is like, I am all, because she's a woman of faith, that's like, I'm like, whatever you need, my knives are yours. And she ends up giving Inej like, yeah, you kind of lost all your other knives like dealing with the Volcra, but hey, here's one for you. So I was almost halfway expecting it. They don't end it this way, but I would have expected, like, maybe, I was kind of hopeful, like, maybe Inej will be like, I'm going to go with them, and then Kaz being like, all right, we're going our separate ways type of thing. It kind of leans into that. That still could be a possibility later on, but we'll get to that soon enough. But Kaz is like, all right, a deal is a deal. And obviously Zoya wants to go, find her family, and, Kaz is like, you don't want to see that. Those dead bodies, they're going to haunt you. But for Zoya, it's like, obviously not knowing is going to haunt her even more. And I love the whole thing with her and Alina, and it's like, I don't like you, but, what was it that she said? I'm glad that basically, I'm glad you're here. Because basically, because of these circumstances, what Kerrigan has done is basically, the entire world's going to think, like, she's responsible for what happened, because it's like, she failed. It's like, oh, the Sun Summoner, failed to do. It's like, yeah, like, the world might be like, oh, she made things worse. It's like, Kerrigan wanted a Grisha to solve everything. At least that's what he claimed, so that the world would look at Grisha a certain way. But Kerrigan has now brandished Grisha even worse. And now because, like, the Sun Summoner, Alina, is going to be painted as, like, the one responsible for making things worse. Like, oh, that part of Ravka got destroyed because of her. She failed. She was supposed to do this. And, so... And obviously Mala's like, we'll come back. We won't tear it down today, but we will come back. And also the conversation, you're going to have to find allies. It's like, who do you turn to under these circumstances? Even the look in Kaz's eyes, like, oh, he's not let this go. Because obviously with this, it's like, we have enough to get Inej free from Helen, but also at the same time, it's like, you definitely know, because also it comes up later on, it's like, well, we go back. Dreesen's going to want our head because it's like, we didn't bring back the Sun Summoner. And Pekka's going to want you dead because, like, oh, he wanted his job, and, so multiple fronts of, like, of terrible shit waiting for them if they go back to Ketterdam. So, But obviously, you know, Kaz telling Inej, like, yeah, she needs you, but we need you more. But for her, it's like, all right, we'll go to Ketterdam. Like, I can't wait to see Helen's face when you free me, and then, like, pay off my debt. Then we'll decide from there. And he has this look of, like, things between him and Inej are a little bit more. I think it is a very Alina and Mal thing, but neither one, like, they haven't really crossed that line yet, even though it's super obvious. I don't think I don't know. I think it's a thing of he cares a lot about her, and he just can't bring himself to admit it and say it out loud. Well, he did, was it? Yeah, last episode he made it clear, but it's like, I don't think he's speaking his true feelings, what's in his heart type of situation. So, or it maybe has to deal with, like, this other plan he has. Like, he knows he's doing something. He's got something planned that Inej is not going to forgive him for. But for him, it's probably, like, to get back everything, to get your freedom, to get back to Crow and everything, you know. Plus, you know, it's also, like, the feel of revenge, you know. It's like he's aiming for Pekka. We still haven't even touched on that this season, like, what their beef is. Like, well, Pekka doesn't recognize him. So, they are getting on a boat to Ketterdam, and lo and behold, it's also the same boat that Matthias and Nina are on. And Nina's like, hey, Matthias bringing in food and everything. And he's pissed at her because for him, it's like, oh, you're a traitor. Like, oh, like everything was for you to, like, lure me into all this. It's like now you had the opportunity to, roles are reversed. I didn't even think about it at the time until he mentioned, it's like, oh, yeah, roles have been reversed. She's on the other side of everything but for him, it's like, oh, you saying all this? You're just saying what I said to you back then just to make, it's like, but for Nina, it's like, no, this was legitimately the only way I could save you. It's like, but the moment we get there, I'll drop the charges, everything will be fine. I was like, oh, you really think so? It's like, the dude's like, yeah, it'll be like a week or so before something like that happens, because we're going like the Hell's Gate or something like that, so it's not going to go the way Nina wants it to. And obviously she's just telling Matthias to trust her, and it's like, you've lost my trust, which is such a shame. It's like, so it's not necessarily like a betrayal. It did end with Nina pseudo betraying him in his eyes, because he wasn't awake for the entire conversation. If he was, he would realize, like, Nina stood up for you, and this is the only means of getting out of there, because, like, they wanted you dead, you know? So it's a complicated thing, so that kind of ruins their relationship. But once again, Romeo and Juliet had their complications, their ups and downs, some killings of cousins got involved in stuff like that. So yeah, you know, killing of friends type of thing. So it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns, you know, for them either. I mean, granted, sure as hell wasn't rainbows and unicorns at the end either. So hopefully their story doesn't end that way. But obviously, you know, she hears the conversation. And, you know, it's interesting how things come full circle. It's like, Arkin said this whole thing about meeting Nina, and it's like, lo and behold, oh, wonderfully, like, oh, Nina's there. And she's like, oh, what they say about the Sun Summoner being dead, is that true? I'm curious what that means for Nina, especially because Kirigan is alive, and, like, when they meet up, it's like, she is a believer in him. So it's like, when he shows up again, and it's like, well, she can't go back to him now, because now it's a thing of, like, right, she is going to be a traitor, like, because Fedor is going to be like, oh yeah, she betrayed us, blah, 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 so there's no going back, smoothing things over on that front. Not unless she ends up running into Kirigan before them, but we don't know. Like I said, Kaz has definitely got, like, a shifty plan up. But for him, it's like he's going to need a heart render. And it's like, lo and behold, Nina's there. Like I said, it's just interesting how that comes full circle. But it is also the thing of the entire world's going to be going after Elena. And even her looking back at Kaz being like, yeah, he's still got this shifty eye of, like, yeah, I can still try and swing this my way. He made his promise to Inej, but I don't know. His need for revenge outweighs probably his promises to a certain extent, because no matter, you know, because it's like, I need to get revenge. Once again, Inej doesn't know what's what, but Jesper, I get the feeling, like, knows the full story. So hopefully we'll get some answers to that in the future. But like I said, at the end, we do see that your boy Kirigan's still alive. At first, and when he said follow, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna bring the fold with him, but it's like, no, he's bringing the Volcra out, because I was like, your hand's injured, so you can't go full-blown controlling the fold like you could, but I think it's, like, enough that he can, like, control the Volcra, either, like, he was able to make them submit to him because of his power, even without both hands. I guess he has enough power, or not unless he ended up finding that bone piece and made it his, so he has more power, and now he's able to, I don't know. Well, to be fair, that was the whole point from the very beginning, was like that he could control the Volcra. So maybe that's where that's kind of coming into play as well, because he wanted to transform all those people into Volcra, transform them in general so he can make them his. So I don't know. Either that is something like, well, it's kind of been laid in the groundwork ever since he created the circumstances, or whether it's just something that happened while he was in the fold this time. But, oh, that's good. And those things aren't just, they don't die from, like, regular sunlight. It's like, no, you need, like, the sun summoner. The fact is that he can bring them out, which, I mean, I say that, but, like, who's to say he isn't bringing the fold with him, and so he can, like, basically pull from the fold and make them that way. He's not just... It seemed like it just straight up, because the way they were coming out the darkness, it was almost like the fold. Because they also look different. They were on land. They didn't look like the fine Volcra. So I am wrong. It's like, it's not him bringing the Volcra out. He is shaping the fold into actual creatures he controls. So he is literally bringing the fold with him. So I'm curious, like, is he going to make a full-blown army? What's going to happen in East Ravka with the... Well, to be fair, that was also another conversation, too. Like, Jinya, like, what's going to happen with that? Because she enjoys her position, and, obviously that puts her at odds with Alina with everything. But also, it's like, the Spirit Advisor is all about his position and stuff. Like, once again, I guess he's in the know about everything, because he was the one that was like, oh, your destiny's greater than this. It's like... Or maybe he knows something that no one else... I don't know. Once again, that dude popped up like twice, and he's been a big old weirdo, and I just didn't trust him, and we haven't seen him since, but maybe he'll be a bigger part in the future. So it does beg the question where all of this will potentially take us in the future. It is currently May 6th at the time of me recording this review of the finale. It is not confirmed whether or not the show is getting renewed for a second season. Fingers crossed on that. Like, obviously, like, I don't know when I'm going to end up uploading these, so maybe news will come out then. But once again, it's not always a thing of, like, Netflix immediately answering whether or not something's coming back. Some shows get the green light immediately. Others, it takes a little while. It's been, like, 2 weeks now? Once again, it also depends on when I end up loading this. They should be within that 2-week frame, but it's been, like, show's been out for 2 weeks now, I believe, so... it's going to be a while. I think some stuff is saying, like, they're teetering on, like, renewing it just because, like, the show's been... Well, for one, the books that this is based on has a huge fan base, plus I think this is pretty popular. I think it's doing well on Netflix, so... I really hope it gets to season 2, because I'd love to see where they take us, because obviously they're not going to be kicking it in Ravka. Probably not going to be seeing Ketterdam for too long, so probably get some more, like, other countries and stuff like that, see what, kind of more of the world, explore that more as, Kerrigan does what he does. I also forgot about, let's not forget, we still haven't touched on the, Bagra situation, because it's like, once again, we don't even know all of Kerrigan's story. Like he said, it's like, oh, you're going to believe the story of, like, an angry old woman. It's like, maybe she fibbed some stuff here and there. I mean, it seems like she was pretty right, but it's like, maybe she has her own ambitions that aren't all good. We don't know. I'm also curious, like, now that, like, when it's all said and done, like, what is Kerrigan going to do? Like, is he just going to straight up just kill Alina? Because it's like, you know what? I don't need you anymore. You're a threat to everything I'm trying to do and build. So, plus you try to have me killed, so screw that. I'm sure he's going to be pissed at his mom, because his mom kind of helped orchestrate a lot of this. So, we'll see where things... Because we hadn't seen her for a couple episodes, so I'm curious, like... I doubt he killed her or anything, but I'm, like, curious where things are going to fold on that front. Things back at the little palace and everything. So, Zoya out on her own. It leaves, like, a lot of stuff open. Like I said, also, like, who are these future allies? So I expect us to kind of keep it with this new crew, but also, like, a lot of new characters. But that's also a thing of, like, once again, the world kind of hates you, because this is going to paint not only the Sun Summoner in a terrible light, but also Grisha. There's also going to be a lot of Grisha that are probably going to be pissed, like, you made things worse for us, boo you. But also, she's kind of low-key, like, hiding away and stuff like that. So, we'll see where things kind of go on that front. Like I said, I haven't mentioned it. I've never read the books. I wasn't even aware of this series until, like, the teaser trailers came out, and it was like, oh, and it's also based on a series of books. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see where this story takes us in a second season. So, like I said, I'm really hoping for a renewal. So, but really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.